Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is day 177, August the 29th, 2017, Tuesday. Man, where did August go? Won't be long, fall's right around the corner. It's been a beautiful summer, and we sure got some rain today. Compliments of Hurricane Harvey. I woke up this morning and watched the weather before I went to work, and the weatherman's like, yeah, we may get the occasional pop-up shower to the north. Not really much. We may see a little bit of rain tomorrow night. And of course, it rained all day. In fact, we had a complete downpour for like 2 hours. You know, being a weatherman, it's the only job that you can get where you can be wrong 90% of the time and still keep your job. Never believe the weatherman. Take a look outside and you can probably figure out the weather better than the weatherman, even with all the high-tech devices that they have. I actually think that the weathermen were way more accurate 25, 30 years ago before they had any of that stuff. Anyway, I'm just babbling now. But anyway, I do want to just, for a moment, just touch on Hurricane Harvey. Obviously, the last time I did a video, I mentioned it. There had been no deaths reported, but now it looks like we're up to 6 deaths. And you can imagine once all that water recedes, you're probably going to find some more victims, unfortunately. Still, you know, considering how bad that storm was, and it's still got a ways to go, you know, and of course the, I guess it's the mayor of Houston, didn't probably prepare his folks there very well, not as well as he should have. I don't know that he made the right call telling people to stay in their homes. I understand why he did it. You know, you don't want all those people out on the highway trying to get out of there as the thing hits. But what he should have said was, hey, if you're going to evacuate, we suggest you do, but do it now. Do it before the storm hits. We don't want to have a massive traffic jam and have people trapped in a hurricane on the highway. So there was probably a better way to handle that. But being as things are the way they are, it looks like it could have been much worse. I expect there will be more deaths than 6 once the water recedes, and it looks like the storm is going to do exactly like they said. They said it was going to come in about 75 miles, stop, and then turn right back around and exit right same route that it came in, which means it's going to go back and dump what they're saying is up to 25 more inches of rain on its way out, and that's happening as we're speaking now. So it looks like we got at least another 12 to 18, maybe another 24 hours of, you know, fairly heavy rain, 25 more inches on top of what they already have. And so it's a bad situation down there. So if you're a subscriber or a viewer of my video channel, certainly my thoughts are with you, and I'm sure a lot of the people on the channel are pulling for you guys to have a quick recovery with as little loss of life as possible. And I know it'll be a long time before things get back to normal, but you got some good people down there in Texas, that's for sure. And I'm sure everyone will do their best. It's just one of those things, you know, that Mother Nature is a powerful force, and it's part of life, isn't it? Tornadoes, earthquakes, you know, earth changes. Been going on for 4.3 billion years. And these changes will continue. The earth is in a constant state of creation and recreation. It'll never end, and it has nothing to do with global warming, I can assure you. So let's get to it. Oh, by the way, yesterday's video, before I get started here, sometimes YouTube or Google, I guess it is, will do like a maintenance. About once a month they run like a maintenance thing, and when they do, you cannot upload videos. It'll stop your video upload, and that's what happened to me last night. So the video, Monday's video, that's why it did not get uploaded until almost 8:30 Monday night. Was because I could not publish the video until, you know, I got home from work. So I got up this morning, the video was stuck at about 70%. I had to dump it, start uploading it all over again. I went to work, and when I got home, I published the video. So anyway, that's what happened. It's not a perfect science, but we do our best. So thank you for your patience and understanding how things are in the imperfect world of YouTube and technology. First story, you're going to love this one. Unbelievable. A never-Trumper, an ex-Bush advisor named Peter Weiner, is so distraught that President Trump's supporters are sticking by him that Weiner is calling for Republican officials to form a shadow government to undermine Trump and his agenda. And of course, this was published in the New York Times. I will provide a link for you so that you can read this for yourself, because you probably think, I got this from The Onion. You're probably thinking, oh, Mike, you got fooled, man. That's a crazy story. There's no way. No, there is a way. This guy, Peter Weiner, I'm not making that up. I'm not making up the name. His name is Peter Weiner. He's an ex-Bush advisor. He's stating in his op-ed that he wrote that was published in the New York Times, I believe on Sunday, that the Republicans need to put together a shadow government to undermine Trump and his agenda. Little late to the party, aren't you? It's only been going on now since even before he was inaugurated. Peter Weiner, you dick. Put together a shadow government to undermine Trump and his agenda. It's been going on now for quite some time, Mr. Weiner. Don't know where you've been, but that's exactly what's happening. Most of it generated by the neocons, and Mr. Weiner is, of course, a neocon. I do remember him from the Bush days. He was kind of like a mid-level guy, some assistant to an assistant. But he's worked his way up the neocon chain, and that's where he stands today. And I want to make a prediction for you. I'm predicting that if and when, and I believe he will be, reelected in 2020, I predict that if Trump is reelected in 2020, that the neocons will desert the Republican Party and they will go back to the Democratic Party from whence they came. I'm not going to go into the whole spiel on the neocons, although some slow news day, I'll actually do an entire video on the neocons, the history of the neocons. I've studied it well. Don't have time to do it today, but I'll just mention this briefly. The neocons originally began in the Democratic Party. They were born into the Democratic Party. And what happened was in 1968, the Democrats nominated George McGovern. And he was seen by the neocons as being a dove, not a hawk on defense, but a dove. And he was also believed to be not supportive enough of Israel. And as you know, the neocons are very Israel-centric. So when that occurred, the neocons packed their bags and left the Democratic Party and infiltrated the Republican Party. That process took them quite a few years, but by the time the first Bush came into office, he stacked quite a few of the neocons into his administration, and then by the time we got to W. Bush, he finished the job, especially with Cheney as the vice president. They basically filled up the Justice Department, the Department of Defense, the Pentagon, the intelligence agencies, the whole 9 yards. And so while a lot of people look at the nasty stuff that's going on against Trump in the deep state coup, and they want to attribute it all to Democrats and Obama holdovers, trust me, there are just as many, if not more, neocons put in there by the Bushes who are probably more at the root of the deep state coup against Trump than there is the hapless Democrats and liberals and progressives and all those folks. They're probably incapable of doing much. The neocons, on the other hand, are very capable, and they're very ruthless. And I can assure you the neocons are just as big a threat, if not more, than the liberals. So that's my prediction, 2020. If Trump, and I believe he will win in 2020, if he does, you will see the neocons depart the Republican Party and go back to the Democratic Party where they came from, and I would welcome them to do that. That would be wonderful. So, Peter Weiner, the dick, so distraught by President Trump's supporters sticking by him, that Wiener's calling for Republican officials to form a shadow government to undermine Trump and his agenda. My goodness. I will provide the link for you so you can read it for yourself. Well. It appears that Emmanuel Macron has now dropped another 14%. He dropped 10% last month, another 14% now. He's now slipped below 40% in opinion polls in France. Hey, France, you should have voted for Marine Le Pen. They will vote for Marine Le Pen in 2021, but they've got to go through another 5 years of Macron before they get a chance. He duped plenty of people, and now they're finding out. Things will get much worse before they get better for the French. Assuming they still have a country left in 5 years, maybe they'll have a chance to elect Marine Le Pen. And let's face it, she's not exactly that good on economic issues and things like that. But she's a lot better than Macron or any of the other weenies that they try to put in power there in France. She does have her head screwed on to some extent, although I think she needs work on the economic side. But there you go, Emmanuel Macron. He's down to below 40%, and he's got 5 years to go, and things are not going to get any better there because his solutions will not solve the problems that they have. I imagine his approval ratings will at some point dip into the teens. Whether or not this guy survives 5 years or not, I don't even know. John Kasich. I'm embarrassed to talk about John Kasich because he is the Ohio governor. He's my governor. And I detest the man. He's a jerk. But he's given a speech the other day, and he says, well, he thinks Democrats are blowing a golden opportunity to win elections because they're squandering it because they can't figure out how to be anything but against Trump. Duh. Like it takes a genius to figure that one out. But it's just the fact that John Kasich is out there literally being a cheerleader for the deep state, a cheerleader for the deep state coup, for the liberal Democrats. There was a rumor floating around a couple days ago that he was going to team up with the Democratic governor, Higginbopper or whatever his name is, and run on a ticket with a Republican and a Democrat together in 2020. But he is poo-pooing that, although I don't believe him. I believe he's certainly capable of doing that, but he'll fail. But John Kasich, I consider him a traitor. And although he hasn't done a bad job as governor of Ohio, let's face it, folks, Ohio is generally been a pretty good state for economics and stuff like that. We have a very diversified sort of economy here in Ohio. We have a lot of industry, quite a bit of manufacturing. We've taken a hit up north, but for the most part in southern Ohio, where it's mostly conservative, we've done pretty well. So I can't really give John Kasich a lot of credit for being the reason. I mean, he's done decent. He hasn't done too much harm, but he is kind of a big government, kind of liberal Republican. But it just bothers me that he's been so anti-Trump and that type of thing. So I just can't get behind the guy at all. And of course, he worked for the Wall Street big banks before that. I mean, he's an inside player. He's a bad guy, but he just can't seem to keep his mouth shut. That's the problem. If he doesn't like Trump, yeah, I could see him just going on about his way, doing his business as governor, but he just never misses an opportunity to go out there and take a shot at Trump. And he's really warmed up and is hanging out with a lot of liberal Democrats and getting all buddy with them. Wouldn't be surprised to see Kasich change his party status and become a Democrat. Wouldn't surprise me at all. But anyway, that's the deal on John Kasich. What a jerk. Here's a sad story. The Orpheum Theater in Memphis has decided to end a 34-year tradition of showing Gone with the Wind because board members say the movie is insensitive. Wow. You know, this is just, as I told you about 2 weeks ago when this whole thing started about tearing down monuments and Confederate monuments, and I told you it won't stop there. It'll go from Confederate monuments to street signs to street names to anyone that owned a slave, unless they're a Democrat, of course. Now, if they owned a slave or they were friends of Robert K.A. Byrd or anything like that, for Democrats, it's okay. The party of slavery. It's okay for the party of slavery to have that history, but it's not okay for the Republican Party to have that history, or anyone who's thought to be a Republican or conservative or what have you. It's just extraordinary to be watching this. But I told you that this would not stop here because I know liberals. They never stop. You know, once they get onto something, they run it as far as they can to the point of ridiculousness. Now, I know there's many millions and millions of people sitting back across the country watching this. Many conservative types, libertarians, various shades of Republicans and things like that, who are disgusted by what they're seeing, this attack and assault on our history. Regardless of whether it's good history or bad history, it is our history. And just the unhinged nature of this whole activity of wanting to go back and trying to erase our history, which cannot be done. And I think it's really bothering a lot of people, but I think there's a lot of people who are afraid to speak up because they don't want to be criticized, they don't want to be castigated, they don't want to be fired from their job, they don't want to be blacklisted from the club, from the golf club. So it's very, very difficult these days for people, I guess, of a conservative nature to say what they feel because they get attacked. But let me tell you something. For a lot of people who are on the conservative side, Republican side, or whatever, there's, you know, the real heartland of America. These people get up every day, they go to work, drop the kids off, go do their jobs, do their 10 or 12 hours, come home, do what they have to do, put the kids to bed, do their thing. They're too busy working, too busy living their lives to get caught up in all this. But they are paying attention. And they will their day will come for their voice to be heard, because I think a lot of people are distressed by this, upset by this, pissed off about this, but they just have to go out there every day and do what they do and just bide their time, because they know that they're going to get their chance to respond on Election Day. There's a lot of Republicans who are jumping on this train. Many of them are going to be primaried. I'm predicting big surprises in 2018 and 2020 for a lot of establishment Republicans and Democrats. But I think that the silent majority spoke up in 2016 when they elected Trump. They have not gone to sleep. They are paying very, very close attention. They don't like what's going on, and you can be assured that just because you don't see them out in the streets, because you don't see them out having protests and things like that, it's because they're too busy earning a living, living their lives. But they will get a chance to speak in 2018, November, and again in 2020. Keep watching. Keep watching. Antifa, once again, back in Berkeley this weekend, engaged in more violence. This time they were even attacking the police. Of course, the police out in California have now been ordered, in almost all these situations, to stand down. That's what they do. They just stand down. Now, Antifa actually began attacking the police, and they wouldn't even fight back. What they did, they pulled back. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. That the state of California would tell the law enforcement community that you cannot respond, even when you're being attacked. Then what you must do is not just stand down, but literally back off, leave the scene, pull back. Pull back and just let them have it. Let them take over the park, which is exactly what they did. And then they begin beating on innocent people, just people who happen to be around, watching, just observing, whatever. They just started going off on people and attacking people, which is what they do, as we have seen over and over again on video. They even began attacking another group that was there really to try to join forces with them. This group is called BAMN, B-A-M-N, which stands for By Any Means Necessary. They were also joined by a group called the Democratic Socialist of America. That would be the Bernie Bros. So now we have the Bernie Bros teaming up with Antifa. I'm sure they'll be beating each other up pretty soon because they're Democratic Socialists. The Antifa crowd, they're hardcore communists. And, of course, they don't like competition. They don't like someone taking their spotlight and their banner. We already know that they put out a message on Saturday on their official website that they're distancing themselves from BLM because they say BLM attacked them. So here we have them engaged again in violence out in Berkeley, the police standing down, backing away, letting them take over a park. They began assaulting not just regular people, passersby, but they began assaulting even another group that was there to try to show camaraderie with them, and joined with forces of the Bernie Brothers, the Bernie Bros, the Democratic Socialist of America, which have no future in America. I mean to tell you. My oh my. It's their state. If California wants to go that route, I'm glad I don't live out there. You couldn't pay me to live out there. Unbelievable. Won't happen here. Okay. Ron DeSantis, a good man, a Republican from Florida, once again. I like Ron DeSantis. Every time you turn around, this guy is doing something good. Ron DeSantis has now proposed an amendment to stop funding Mueller's investigation, his witch hunt, after 180 days. Yeah, it's a wonderful idea. It'll go nowhere. But at least he's standing up and making a pitch, right? He's standing up and making a pitch. It's going nowhere. But it's interesting that he would, come out and say that. But Ron DeSantis is pretty solid. He's kind of surprises you sometimes. I don't know about the district he lives in. I imagine it's fairly conservative. But he's one of the good guys. We need more good guys. And Ron DeSantis is one of those. Okay, North Korea fired another nuke over Japan. I'll tell you what. As I've stated in previous videos, I don't believe that we will go to war in North Korea or anything like that because of the reasons I've mentioned in previous videos, namely being the fact that within the first hour of the exchange, you would probably have 1 million plus dead in Seoul. Nothing you can do about that, just from conventional artillery. Not even including nukes or atom bombs or anything else, just flat out regular artillery. Because there's such a concentration of people in Seoul, South Korea, that within 1 hour, Kim Jong-un could kill probably 1 million plus people. That is why we didn't go in during the Clinton years. That's why we didn't go in during the Bush 1 years, during the Bush 2 years, during the Obama years, and why we will not go in now. But North Korea is playing a very, very dangerous game. Now, we are conducting a military exercises with Japan right now. And North Korea is complaining about it at the UN, which is fine. They can complain about it at the UN, but... And they also had a couple failed missile launches over the weekend. A couple more missile launches they tried, which failed. But they're playing a very dangerous game. Like I say, it's the last option. Hitting North Korea is the last option. It's and you can't do it halfway. Limited strike, do you no good. If you do it, you got to go all the way. And then you've got a lot of problems. A lot of dead South Koreans, over 1 million. Possible ground war. 25 million refugees. Probably destroying the relationship that we have with China, which is not great, but it's better than nothing. It's a problem. You got to wonder what Kim Jong-un is thinking, launching that missile over Japan. I think, again, I think the two best things that we can do, number one, get that missile defense system, get it done. We already have it. Whether how accurate it is or whatever, I don't know, but they really need to polish that thing, that program off and make sure that that thing works. Get that anti-missile defense system working at a high level. Make sure it works. It's the first thing. The next thing, if you really want to move China, which is what you got to do, they're the only people that have any control over North Korea. If you want to really move them, put nukes in Japan and South Korea. Just talk about the fact that you're going to put nukes in Japan and South Korea, and watch how fast the Chinese rein in North Korea. It's two things you got to do. And the previous government of Japan wasn't interested. The previous government in South Korea wasn't interested. But the new government in South Korea is somewhat interested in that idea. And there will be a change coming in Japan pretty soon. In fact, they're already changing. Public opinion's changing. The opinion in government is changing. And again, you wouldn't even have to put these missiles in there. All you would have to do is talk about it. Talk about the fact that you may have to introduce nuclear weapons into Japan and South Korea. And I promise you, you would get the Chinese attention. And they would start really leaning on Kim Jong-un. Do that and get your missile defenses together. Get that missile defense system, get it checked out, make sure it works, test it over and over again, perfect it, get it right. You got plenty of money, there's been plenty of time, let's get it done. That's the solution to the problem. War in North Korea is not. Maybe we'll get lucky, at some point maybe there'll be a coup. Maybe the people will rise up, who knows. Anything can happen. But a war in North Korea is a bad, bad deal, trust me on that one. CNN's Chris Cuomo gets roasted. Yeah, this idiot. He couldn't help going on Twitter over the weekend trying to defend the Antifa violence that was going on in Berkeley. I don't know if he's got YouTube or if he watches video, if he even knows what the hell he's talking about. I mean, with all the video footage that we have of Antifa, for Cuomo to start defending Antifa the way he has been, but he got blistered, absolutely blistered. I read some of the thread. It was absolutely hilarious. I mean, it was absolutely hilarious. I imagine he's probably taken that thread down by now because he got hammered. I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, unbelievable that the Clown News Network still employs Chris Cuomo and that whole crowd. I'll have more to say about them in another video. Okay. The Senate passes the bill 14-1 to label WikiLeaks a non-state hostile actor. What's going on here? Well, first of all, it's not a standalone bill. It is a bill within a larger bill. I think it's part of the Defense Authorization Act. But when they vote on a bill like the Defense Authorization Act or any other big bill, there's a lot of smaller items that'll accompany that bill, and they'll vote on these individual items that will be in the larger bill as they go along. And this is just one of those little items that they snuck in there without talking about it, having a conversation or debate about it. They just snuck it in there without even talking about it or even hearing about it. It just popped up on the radar screen. One day we find out that they voted on this, and it passed 14-1. And to label WikiLeaks a non-state hostile actor. Now, what's this all about? Well, this is a blocking move. It's a blocking move because they know that Dana Rohrabacher, who's famous for coming up with the phrase, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall, when he was a speechwriter for Ronald Reagan. He also fought valiantly in the first Afghan war. He was there. He's a tough guy. Dana Rohrabacher, don't be fooled by his look and his demeanor. He's a tough guy. And he's a straight shooter. But anyway, so he goes over and he negotiates with Julian Assange and comes back to give the president a message that Assange has got the evidence. He's willing to bring forth the evidence and appear in front of Congress and show them the evidence that Russia was not responsible for the DNC leak. And or what they believe was a hack was actually a leak. But anyway, he's saying Russia's not responsible for being the one providing the DNC or the Podesta emails to WikiLeaks, and he can prove it, and he wants to prove it. So he had this meeting with Dana Rohrabacher. So Dana Rohrabacher is trying to get a meeting with Trump so he can explain to Trump what Julian Assange would like. Obviously, Julian Assange has been holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy in London for 6.5 years. He wants to get the hell out of there and get on with his life. He's got something to trade. I wish Trump would veto the bill. I wish he would veto the bill and say, well, I'm going to veto the bill if you don't take that provision about labeling WikiLeaks a non-state hostile actor. Take that out of the bill and I'll sign it. If it's still in the bill when it hits my desk, I'll veto it. I wish he would do that. The pressure would be incredible. And the political damage he would suffer, the political capital he would have to use would be major. But I would love to see him do it. But I don't think he will. It's a tough one. But I guess my thoughts on this are, I understand Julian Assange's position that he wants to use this as a negotiating ploy to try to deal with his own situation, and I understand that. I mean, I don't hold that against Julian Assange for doing that, but I just think it's a very hard thing to ask Trump to do right now in the current climate. It's a very hostile climate right now. This would turn up the heat a great deal, and I think there's another way to get this done. I really honestly believe, but this particular addition of this little bill into the law for the Defense Authorization Act is just a blocking move. It's to try to make sure that if Trump does try to do something with WikiLeaks and Dana Rohrabacher to get the truth out about who really was involved in this particular leaking or hacking of the emails to WikiLeaks, it's just a way to block the truth from coming out. Even though the truth is pretty much out there. Even the liberal bloggers, even the left wing is now admitting that Russia did not hack the DNC, and the evidence is overwhelming. But I guess from my position is, again, I understand where Assange is coming from, but it's tough. I think there's another way to do this, though. I mean, I guess in my mind, I don't know why Julian Assange, he's got the evidence. Why doesn't he just come out in a WikiLeaks release and release it? Why doesn't he just put it out there? Because if he did, all the major media corporations would jump on it. Now, the left-wing media corporations would not at first, but after a week or two, they would be forced to come out and publish his findings. So he could get the truth out and present the evidence through a WikiLeaks release. What this would do is kill the Russian narrative, and this would essentially clear Julian Assange at the same time. Because if he presented the evidence, you would have a bunch of professional IT people, high-level programmers and people like that could look at his evidence and go, yeah, this is solid. This is solid. This is the evidence. This is what we needed to see. That will be the end of the Mueller investigation, the end of the Russian narrative. It will begin to open up the door of truth to what really happened, and I think a lot of us have a pretty good idea of what happened. And I think in a way it would clear Julian Assange and certainly clear a much better pathway, make it much, much easier for Trump to work a deal. Now, I think Trump can still work a deal, but it's going to have to be done through back channels. I mean, Trump is the head of the executive branch. Congress doesn't have much to say about these types of things. And so Donald Trump could very quietly and kind of in a subtle way back off of Julian Assange. He could very subtly back off and work with Julian Assange and let him know that it's something that he would do, but he may have to do it when he leaves office or maybe after he wins his second term. And once he begins his second term, having hopefully drained the swamp mostly by then, and if Julian Assange would come out and publish the evidence, it would begin to clear him. It would kill the Russian narrative. It would totally change the whole dynamic. So I think that this is another way that Julian Assange could accomplish it. It's taking a slightly longer, twistier, turnier road, but it's another way to get there, because the way that he's trying to do it now it's just too much pressure to bring right now with the state of affairs that things are in now. It's a very difficult thing to do. So that's just my thoughts on what he might do there. But anyway, I don't think that that's something that's totally out at this point. I think maybe Julian Assange is going to try this route using Rohrabacher to see if he can get with the president and see if there's something they can do, whether it's in front of everybody or whether it's behind the curtain or however they choose to do it, to try to work that out. Because it would be very important to Trump to be able to have the evidence to show there was no Russia involvement or whatever. I mean, I think this would be something that Trump would like to do, but he understands the political consequences to do it in the way that Julian Assange wants to do it. I think it has to be done another way. And I think Assange could just release the information, and it's a different way of getting there, but it gets you there. So just my thoughts on that. And I'm not so sure that that won't happen. I'm sure Assange is probably considering that. Maybe that's his fallback position. You know, he goes for this thing first. If it doesn't fly, and it probably won't, then maybe he goes another route. Because I do think Assange wants to get the truth out. I really do. He's making a lot of efforts to do that. So anyway, I just kind of see it that way. But anyway, that is TowerGate, day 177, August the 29th, 2017. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to my subscribers for thumbs up, sharing. Of course, I love reading all the comments as usual. Mr. Chopa, obviously, I expect he's looking forward to making some big money in the 2020 election. Won $550. I didn't know that before, so thanks, Mr. Chopa. I wish I would have put some money on it. It's like me and a buddy of mine, every year we say the Patriots are going to win the Super Bowl, but we never actually put money on it. It's because we know that the very year that we do put money on it, they'll lose. But, and again, this year, you know, we're looking at, okay, well, who's going to beat the Patriots? I don't know. I don't know. They could do it again. Alrighty, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Have a good night. We'll see you next time. Bye.